After tying the knot in 2005, the Queen Consort is sharing what has kept their marriage, which was Charles's second following his divorce from the late Princess Diana in 1996 after 15 years together, going strong.
Even after 30 years since King Charles and Princess Diana's official divorce, the mysteries surrounding their troubled marriage continue to captivate the world.
The marriage problems of Charles and Diana have cast a shadow over the royal family. Now the Queen has decided to bring the whole issue to a head by advising them to divorce.
The questions still linger about what truly went wrong. For years, many have pointed fingers at King Charles, blaming him for their complicated marriage. But just when everyone thought the truth was buried, Charles finally spoke out. According to reports, King Charles recently admitted that he hated her. What led to such a strong statement about the woman who once captured the hearts of millions? Is there more to the story? Join us as we uncover the shocking truth behind King Charles' revelation. Why? King Charles hated Diana. Prince Charles' revelation to Princess Diana on the eve of their wedding has sparked intense interest and debate. According to astrologer Penny Thornton, who shared this shocking claim in the documentary, Charles confessed to Diana that he didn't love her, just hours before their highly anticipated wedding. This admission was a critical moment in their relationship, and it's clear that Charles's motivation for sharing his feelings was to avoid entering their marriage under false pretenses. He wanted to be honest with Diana about his feelings, even if it meant risking their relationship. This decision, however, left Diana devastated and questioning her decision to marry Charles. But what happened next changed everything, and the consequences would echo throughout their marriage.
This book really explores the fact that they were deeply unhappy, or at least, Diana was, from literally day one of their marriage.
Stay with us as we uncover more of this emotional story. Diana's reaction to Charles's confession was understandably distraught, and she confided in Thornton that she didn't want to go through with the wedding and even considered not attending. This reaction shows that Diana was deeply hurt and unsure about her relationship with Charles. It shows the difficulties they would later face in their relationship. Despite Charles's reservations, the wedding proceeded as planned in 1981. But their marriage was ultimately marked by infidelity and tension, with Charles rekindling his romance with Camilla Parker Bowles. The couple's relationship issues culminated in their separation in 1996, and it's clear that Charles's admission on the eve of their wedding was just the beginning of a long and complicated relationship. In the years following her separation, Diana went on to date other people, including British-Pakistani surgeon Hasnat Khan, whom she considered the love of her life. Her relationship with Charles, however, remained complicated, and she spoke publicly about her struggles with the royal family and her marriage, leaving a lasting impact on the public's perception of the royal family. But let's take a closer look at how it all started. Lady Diana Spencer was just 16 when she met Prince Charles in 1977. Charles was 29 at the time and was visiting the Spencer family home, Althorp, for a grouse shooting party. He was a guest of Diana's older sister, Lady Sarah McCorquodale, whom he was dating briefly. During this time, Sarah talked to two reporters about her relationship with Charles.
These 2 hours, the presenters on every news channel were saying, injured but expected to make a full recovery, and I have no idea why, but it made me so angry.
She shared some personal things, including that she had an eating disorder and many boyfriends. She also said that she wouldn't marry Charles, even if he were a regular person or the king. However, things changed when Charles saw the article. He was upset and told Sarah that she had done something very foolish. Shortly after, their relationship ended. This was a few years before Charles started dating. But what happened next set the stage for a deep and romantic relationship. While Diana's sister Sarah wasn't very impressed with Prince Charles, Diana felt differently about him. According to Tina Brown's book, Diana told her friends that she thought she would marry Charles one day. She even joked that he was the one person who couldn't divorce her, because of his royal status. However, Diana later shared a different story with biographer Andrew Morton in his book Diana, Her True Story. Morton wrote that Diana's first impression of Charles was not as romantic as one might expect. Instead of being swept off her feet, Diana thought Charles seemed like a sad person. This shows that Diana's feelings about Charles changed over time, and she didn't always see him as the perfect partner. During his engagement interview in 1981, Prince Charles talked about his first impression of Lady Diana Spencer. He said that when he met her at the age of 16, he thought she was a very lively and fun person. He described her as jolly and amusing and attractive, meaning that she was happy, funny, and good-looking. He also mentioned that she was bouncy and full of life, which suggests that she had a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Overall, Charles's words paint a picture of a young Diana as a vibrant and engaging person who made a positive impression on him. It was 3 years after their first meeting that Charles and Diana met again. In July 1980, they were both invited to a weekend barbecue at a friend's house in Sussex. Diana had been asked to stay with some friends in the area, and when she learned that Charles would be there, she decided to attend. At the time, Charles had recently broken up with his girlfriend and was still grieving the loss of his friend, Lord Mountbatten. When Charles arrived at the barbecue, Diana was initially unimpressed, but as she got to know him, she found herself feeling differently. Charles, too, was taken with Diana, and he began to show his interest in her. He was drawn to her kindness and empathy, particularly when she expressed concern about his recent loss. As they talked, Diana tried to offer Charles some comfort, suggesting that he must be feeling lonely. However, Charles's response was unexpected, and he became overly affectionate, kissing her and following her around like a puppy. Diana was taken aback by his behavior, finding it strange. Despite the initial awkwardness, Charles and Diana began to develop a romance. However, their early days of dating were challenging, with Charles's inconsistent behavior causing frustration. He would call Diana every day for a week, only to not speak to her for 3 weeks. This on-again, off-again pattern left Diana feeling uncertain and unsure about their relationship. When Charles did call, Diana was thrilled, and her excitement was palpable. Her flatmates would often get annoyed with her enthusiasm, but Diana couldn't help how she felt. The thrill of receiving a call from the prince was intense, and she would eagerly await his messages. It wasn't until Diana spent a weekend at Balmoral as Charles's guest that their romance became public knowledge. A tabloid headline on September 8, 1980, proclaimed that Charles was in love again, spreading the news of their relationship to the rest of the world. In the early days of their romance, Charles and Diana mostly communicated through phone calls, meeting in person only 13 times before Charles proposed. Despite their romance, their marriage turned out to be much more complicated than people expected. There were issues beneath the surface that soon became hard to ignore. Let's take a closer look at what caused these struggles in their marriage. What you never knew about Diana and Charles' marriage. The wedding of Lady Diana Spencer and Prince Charles took place on July 29, 1981.
Bishop of Canterbury called the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer today the stuff of fairy tales. And in spite of Scotland Yard's most elaborate security measures ever, there was a once-upon-a-time atmosphere in London.
At St. Paul's Cathedral, many people watched as Diana walked out in her wedding dress. The streets of London were filled with people cheering, and millions of people around the world watched the wedding on television. The ceremony was a grand affair, with many notable guests in attendance. The wedding marked a new chapter in the lives of the royal couple, and it was seen as a fresh start for the monarchy. To many, the wedding was a celebration of love and royal tradition. It was a moment of great excitement and joy, and it marked a big change in the royal family, with Prince Charles, who would become a king, getting married. However, problems in the marriage were already starting to form, though they weren't visible to the public. The couple's differences and incompatibilities were beginning to show, but they were not yet apparent to outsiders. After the wedding, the couple had their first child, Prince William, in June 1982. The birth was a happy event for the country.
It's a prince, a 7-pound, 1.5-ounce boy, born late today to Prince Charles and the Princess of Wales, Lady Diana.
And Diana was praised for taking care of William herself. She often took him with her on royal visits, which was a change from the way royal children were typically raised. Her approach to motherhood won the public's admiration, and she was seen as a devoted and loving parent. 2 years later, in September 1984, Prince Harry was born. With 2 healthy sons, the royal family line was secure. To the public, the family seemed perfect, and they were happy with the new additions. The couple's children were a source of great joy. However, behind the scenes, the marriage was struggling, and the couple's relationship was becoming increasingly strained. Charles and Diana's marriage was not as perfect as it seemed. Despite their public appearances, they were having problems. Their personalities and expectations were very different, which caused tension in their union. Diana was young and wanted an emotional connection with Charles, but he was often distant and busy with other things. As time went on, they started spending more time apart. Charles focused on his interests, such as polo and art, while Diana became more involved in charity work with the public. This created an emotional distance between them, and their relationship began to suffer. Despite their public smiles, they were having private disagreements. Their marriage, which had once seemed so perfect, started falling apart. Meanwhile, Camilla Parker Bowles, a woman Charles had known since the 1970s, was still a big part of his life. Charles and Camilla had a deep and long-standing relationship, even though she was married to someone else. Charles continued to stay in touch with Camilla, even after he married Diana. Diana noticed the connection between Charles and Camilla and confronted her early in their marriage. However, Charles never truly ended his relationship with Camilla. Over time, it became more obvious, and Diana felt increasingly alone in her marriage. She felt like she was merely playing the role of a royal wife, rather than being in a true partnership with Charles. But this was just the beginning of her struggle. Diana's life as a royal was not what she expected. She felt trapped in a world that was hard to control. The demands of being a royal were high, and the media attention was overwhelming. Every move she made was watched and analyzed by the press. This constant scrutiny affected her mental health. She struggled with bulimia and felt emotionally drained. The pressure to always look perfect and composed in public was suffocating. The royal family, which she referred to as the